Welcome back to Who Won the Week. I'm Matt Ulrich, media analyst at EDO, the TV Outcomes Company. I'm joined this week by Will Price, brand partnerships at EDO. We had a big LSU versus Iowa rematch last night. Did you get a chance to watch it, Will?
I had to tune in. Like the rest of America, you had to see this story play out. Rematch from last year, all the drama, all the headlines. You had to see if Caitlin showed up to perform, and she did for sure.
Yeah, what did she drop? 41 points or something?
Yeah, she tied the record, which was set by herself last year. So,
Oh, in the tournament, like
right.
most points in a tournament game,
Uh,
women's Caitlin Clark beat Caitlin Clark.
yeah, Caitlin Clark against a defending champion. So she tied her own record. So the greatness continues.
That's pretty
Yeah.
impressive. And then they're now they're in the Final Four. I was in the Final Four. I know UConn is on both sides. I know NC State is on both sides, and so it should be exciting. I feel like there's some really good characters, some heroes, and depending on what team you represent, some villains as well.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be exactly probably what the network wanted, the advertisers wanted. I think it's just going to build on the momentum of more people tuning in to women's sports and the women's tournament. So it's a
Yeah.
great story.
Yeah. So I think I know we want to talk about automotive today and how automotive advertisers have impacted both the women's and men's tournament. I think just to start out with a stat that we have on our end from EDO. So EDO measures spikes in search engagement generated by ads, so ad driven engagement. And through at least the first two rounds. The women's tournament, the engagement rate, so the likelihood to engage with ads by audience members is up 40% year over year, and that's controlling for the audience size. So it's per viewer. Women's tournament is up 40% year over year, and men's tournament is up 10% year over year. So gains on both, and then even bigger on the women's side.
Yeah, I mean, look, March Madness is a huge opportunity for auto brands. It's an opportunity to reach a really younger, more diversified audience. It's the brief that many auto brands, if not all, are working off of. How do they get
Yeah.
younger? How do they get more diversified? And March Madness tournament is just a perfect opportunity for that. A couple brands that come to mind that have really done well of really keying in on this tournament, looking at Buick and Defender.
Yep.
So Buick, they've launched a new campaign. They've been very forward about their initiative to get younger, find a new audience, a complete rebrand, and focusing on design. So if we look at some of their work, they're really touting future product, looking at new concept vehicles, tying it to existing product, creating that halo effect, really just driving home that they are a new Buick. They are focused on design to reach that younger audience, and it's working really well for Buick. Defender is another brand that comes to mind. About a year and a half ago, Defender made a decision to reorganize their product lineup around 4 sub brands. So Defender now stands as its own brand, and they've really leaned into the March Madness tournament to reach that new audience. Really be forward about focusing on Defender as its standalone brand, and it's working really well.
So it sounds like both those brands, Buick Defender, are hitting the gas on the tournament, so to speak. And
Yeah.
and do we have any stats from the tournament so far as to how their ads are performing?
Yeah, I mean, so far in the women's tournament, Buick has had 3 of the top 10 ads perform. If we look at Buick across both tournaments, their activity in the men's tournament is performing about 216% more effective on a per person basis than their average ad in prime time and broadcast cable.
Buick's
So
ad. Wow.
Buick's
Okay.
ad, highly effective. So they're really nailing it on finding that audience and getting that audience to lean in. When we talk about the women's tournament, they're performing 68% better than their normal ad in primetime and broadcast cable. So both tournaments they've invested in with their new work, with their new campaign, and they should be really happy with how it's all working out.
Well, I know they won our March Mad. We did a March Madness
That's right.
bracket last year. They won, or did they? Yeah, they beat Wendy's in the final.
That's
So I
right.
feel like they were already on pretty good ground, and it sounds like maybe they're doing as well or even better with this new Entresto campaign. And how about Defender?
Yeah, Defender finding similar success. So they've been active in the men's tournament. Their men's tournament activity is performing 111% more effective than their average airing in primetime broadcast cable. So they've launched some new work around Defender. They've brought in some new talent. It's again a very young vibe. to that work. And again, it's working. They're finding that engagement, and they're getting those audiences to really seek them out online. So it's and both brands should be really happy with their performance in the tournament so far.
I mean, if there's an overall brand Final Four, I know we didn't do the bracket this year, but if there's an overall brand Final Four, maybe Buick, Defender, or both would have snuck in there. It sounds like they're both doing really well. And then I know we don't know which brands are going to advertise in the Final Four in the championship game this coming Saturday, this coming Monday. But maybe Buick. I would assume Buick is going to. Do we think? Do we think Tesla is going to? I know we've been seeing some Tesla ads on some streaming platforms.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So, for the first time, we're capturing Tesla activity on our AVOD reporting. So, with our AVOD reporting, we get a sense of how brands are investing across different streaming platforms. So, we really get a sense of their investment decisions. I think the entire industry knows that Tesla has been very vocal about their decision not to advertise. That comes from all the way from the very top, from Elon, of not being a big fan of advertising. But I think it speaks to the industry as a whole and the pressures that are being put on EVs. Some of the biggest obstacles for EVs that consumers are voicing is pricing and charging infrastructure. So Tesla, if looking at some of their creative work that they're airing on some of the streaming platforms, they go head on and they focus on that pricing message. They want to remind viewers they're starting at price, that they can take advantage of federal tax credits for EVs. So
Yeah.
they're really trying to not only realize that they have to be out there with all the different competition that has come into the marketplace with EVs, but also remind viewers that, hey, they have a starting at price in the 30s. Take advantage of EV tax credits. So it's interesting to see Tesla finally coming in and participating in the TV space.
Yeah, and so it seems like we know from EDO's TV ad database and our AVOD database that the Tesla's going a little bit against that and against the grain of that Elon Musk tweet a couple of
That's right.
years ago. And then I'm very curious as these ads come in. We've seen the dog mode ad, leave your dog in the car and everything will be okay. And
Yep.
then we've seen the trip planner ad that I think will probably play in this episode as it airs. But I'm very curious to see how those perform. So I hope we can get to that soon. Um, yeah. Anything else automotive as we wrap up this tournament?
Yeah, I think, again, Tesla sort of signaling to the rest of the marketplace that they're willing to play in the advertising, the TV
Yeah.
space. Again, speaks to really what's happening. We see the effectiveness of some non-EV products doing really well. So I think, again, it's a product of some of the headwinds that electric vehicles are facing. The demand is still there, but now they have to convince a new audience that electric vehicles are right for them. Those early adopters have them in their garage, but now we're talking to this new early majority audience, trying to convince them that electric vehicles are the way forward. So again, I think you're starting to see this not only in some of the sales data, but we're seeing it in our engagement data as well. So it's really interesting knowing our engagement data is a predictor of that sales data. So we're just seeing it a little ahead before it actually translates into sales. So it's really cool to see.
I'm really curious to see what the data looks like in terms of the pricing slash federal tax credit messaging versus the feature messaging.
Right.
Um, yeah, excited to get to take a look at that. And yeah, Will, I learned a lot about automotive today. Hopefully, our audiences did as well. It was, great to have you on the show. We'll look forward to seeing what happens in the tournaments next weekend, and hopefully our audience enjoyed too.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Will.
All right.